Well, I'm real excited to bring our next speaker to the stage. He is the #1 collegiate memory trainer in the United States today. He has trained tens of thousands of college students at over 100 major universities how to improve their memories. He's an award-winning speaker and trainer. You are going to love him. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Bob Kittell.
Thank you. You know, that kind of reminds me of my first standing ovation. When I was 19 years old, 72,000 people jumped to their feet and gave my performance a standing ovation. It was at Arizona State University, the big football stadium. Yep, they cheered for me because I was on the other football team and I just missed a field goal. Oh, they were happy with me. I wasn't happy. It was on television. I think every human being I knew on the planet saw me miss that field goal. I thought that was the lowest point of my entire life. I was wrong. 4 minutes later, I got my second standing ovation when I missed my second field goal. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, for a 19-year-old, that was devastating. And I wish somehow I could go back in time and put my arm around that 19-year-old that day and say, listen to me, it's okay, it's going to get better. Hey, you know what, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I was ready. One day, one of my roommates comes up to me and says, oh, come on, Bob, get over it. He said, you've got all kinds of potential. But he said, can I tell you what your problem is? He said, you don't dream big enough. I said, what do you mean I don't dream big enough? He said, well, I know what you plan on doing after you graduate. I don't think you dream big enough. I said, oh, yeah? Well, what are you going to do after you graduate? He said, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I said, really? How are you going to do that? He said, I have no idea, but I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And then he taught me something. He walked me back into his room, and on the wall was a picture of a beautiful home, and next to it was a picture of a beautiful car. And I said, are those yours? He said, not yet, but they will be. Folks, 30 years later, this friend of mine lives in Sacramento, California. You know what's interesting? He's literally a multimillionaire. But you know what? He used to always say this, and he taught me, Bob, you become what you think about most of the time. Let me repeat that. You become what you think about most of the time. Do you believe that's true? Do you believe that's true? Well, there are exceptions. There are exceptions. Otherwise, every young man would become a young woman by the time that you're 20 years old. But you know, if you want to be successful, nature doesn't care. Do what successful people do. If you want to be unsuccessful, nature doesn't care. Do what unsuccessful people do. What do unsuccessful people do? Well, one of the things they do is they're negative. Are there a lot of negative people out there? Are there people out there that say, you can't do it, that can't be done, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard? Maybe they're sitting right next to you, I don't know. But you know what, can negative people affect our decisions? Oh, I know that. You see, I remember one day I asked this young lady to marry me, and she said no. I asked her again. She said no. I asked her again. She said no. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. She turned me down over 60 times for marriage before she finally said yes. And then she said no. But I found out what the problem was. Every time I asked her to marry me, she would go discuss it with her mother. And her mother would say, oh, you don't want to marry him. He doesn't really love you. You don't love him. He'll never amount to a darn thing. And you know what? Bob's not very smart. What do you mean he has a master's degree? I don't believe it. Have you ever actually seen the diploma? You saw the diploma? I don't believe it. Call the university. You can fake those things, you know. You know what? I have a little test. When somebody's being negative, I ask myself 2 questions. Question number 1, how happy are they with their lives? Most negative people are pretty miserable. Second question I ask myself when somebody's trying to dispense information that's negative, I go, what is it you've done with your life that I should be listening to you? Now contrast that with somebody who's positive. Folks, when I graduated, I had this idea to start a business, and you know what? I was the student, I was ready for my teacher. And one day this guy walks up and he was a successful multimillionaire. And I said, sir, I have got this idea for starting a business. What do you think? And he says, Bob, have you ever seen the movie Grumpy Old Men? Whoever saw that movie, Grumpy Old Men? My favorite line in that whole movie is this: the only things we regret in life are the chances we never take. He said, Bob, go for it. You can't lose. I said, what do you mean I can't lose? He said, pal, there are 2 attributes of every successful person. Number 1, they were persistent. And number 2, they all failed. He said, do you know how many people think failure is a bad thing? It's your failures that teach you how to be successful. He says, Bob, go for it. And if you fail, fantastic. You will learn great things that will help you the rest of your life. And if you go out there and you are successful, fantastic. You'll fail later. You're young. You'll be okay. Well, you know what? I have a new policy. Be the student. Find your teacher. In fact, that helped me one time when I was in college. You see, when I was in college, it was hard. I was living in the library 8 to 10 hours a week just trying to remember information. I didn't have a very good memory. And then I ran across this class that taught memory skills, and I'm thinking, I'm a student, I could use a better memory. How many of you could use a better memory? How many of you can't remember if you could use a better memory? So I took action, I got that training, I learned about memory skills, and my GPA went from a 3.0 to 3.8, and I was able to cut my memorization time down in half. But how about you? Does your mind and your memory have to go downhill with age, yes or no? Everyone look to the person on your left. It's that way if you forgot. Now look to the person on your right. 1 in 3 of you will be diagnosed senile by the time you turn 70 years old because of apparent memory loss. A bunch of you are going, yeah, it's going to be one of them. Some of you are going, it's me, and I think it's already started. Well, Dr. Thomas Crook at the National Institute for Mental Health said this: a well-trained 75-year-old can have a better memory than a 25-year-old. How many of you would like to have a better memory when you're 75 than when you were 25? How many of you would like to be 25 again? Well, there's nothing I can do about that. But you know what they found? Listen to this. They found that when you sit down and you study and you think, and when you memorize, did you know when you memorize something, there's an increased blood flow to your brain? Now, if you can increase the blood flow to your brain on a regular basis, wouldn't this be good for you? You're actually being rewarded for trying to learn and remember. But how about absent-mindedness? Is anybody absent-minded? You know, you forget where you put your keys, where you parked your car, where you put your kids. You know, it's not so bad you forgot where you put your car keys. It's the damaging side effects. Damaging side effect number 1, you've been looking for your keys for 20 minutes. Could you have just missed an important appointment? Could this cost time and money? Damaging side effect number 2, you've been looking for your keys for 20 minutes. Physiologically, what's going on? Your heart rate is up, your blood pressure is up, your stress level is up. Is this good for you? Damaging side effect number 3, you've been looking for your keys for 20 minutes. Should any member of the immediate family approach you right now? It's not good for them either, is it? Damaging side effect number 4, you've been looking for your keys for 20 minutes. What is this doing to your self-esteem? What are you thinking to yourself right now? I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, I'm a moron. They're in my pocket, I'm a fool. In fact, has this ever happened? You're sitting there, you're watching television. A thought occurs to you. You get up out of your chair, you walk into the other room, and you stop. And you're thinking to yourself, why am I here? Have you ever wondered why you got to go all the way back to your chair and sit down before you remember why you got up? I had a guy tell me, Bob, I never forget where I put my keys. I have a technique. I said, really, sir, what's your technique? He said, well, if I were to go home and put my keys on the table, I'd do it just like this. I am now putting my keys on the table. He said, don't laugh. It works great. Not only do I know where they are, but everybody in the house does too. Well, how many of you would like to expand the power of your minds? Fantastic. Who'd like to do that without the use of drugs? Well, one of the keys to having a better memory is what's called visualization. Visualization, what do I mean by that? Everybody close your eyes. Go ahead, take a second and close your eyes. And I want you to visually get into your dream car, the car you've always wanted to own. And I want you to start down the freeway in your dream car. Now dream big. If you're in a Ford Escort, get out and get into something else. Okay, open your eyes. With that one key, I'm going to give you a number of items to remember hearing it one time through, and most of you will remember all of them hearing them just once. Now, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but my 6-year-old niece remembered all of them hearing them just once. So put your pens and pencils down. We're going to see how good we do with our memories. Here we go. The first item I want everyone to remember is a bonnet, like an Easter bonnet. Here's how you will remember. Everybody take your hands like this. Go ahead, take your hands like this. Folks, this isn't television. I can see you, okay? Take your hands like this. Okay, everybody tie a little bonnet to your head. Go ahead, just tie a little bonnet. I see somebody helping their friend with theirs. What's that all about? Okay, put your hands down. After bonnet, I want you to remember giraffe. Here's how you will remember. Visualize a bonnet on a giraffe's head. Take a second and see the bonnet on the giraffe. Okay, now, after giraffe is telephone booth. Visualize a giraffe that's stuck in a telephone booth. Take a second and see the picture in your mind's eye. Telephone booth. After telephone booth, a steamroller. Visualize a steamroller crushing. Don't worry, the giraffe's okay. Visualize a steamroller crushing a telephone booth. After steamroller is boat. The steamroller went into the water and became a boat, and you're theorizing, how does it float? Boat. After boat is snake. I want you to see hundreds of snakes on a boat, hundreds and hundreds of snakes on a boat. After snake is professor. You may have all known someone like this. A professor who looks like a snake. Stay with me. After professor is soup. Visualize a professor at the bottom of a bowl of soup gurgling through his presentation. Soup. After soup is airplane. Picture an airplane landing in your soup. Listen to the airplane land in your soup. And after airplane is hippo. This is now flying the friendly skies, the hippo airplane. See hundreds of hippos flying through the air. Okay, everyone together in a loud, clear voice. What did you all tie to your head? The bonnet's also on a? The giraffe is in a? And it got hit by a? The steamroller became a? The boat is covered with? One of the snakes is a? The professor's in some? What landed in your soup? But the airplane is a? Give yourself a round of applause. You're doing really good so far. And you know what? That was the first memory exercise I ever learned, and I was amazed. And by the way, I was ticked. I was thinking, why didn't somebody teach me how to do this earlier? You see, when my GPA went from 3.0 to 3.8 and I cut my memorization time in half, I was going, why don't they teach every single child in every single school district these skills? Can you always depend on the schools to teach your kids the best things? So I started doing assemblies for elementary schools for free. I did assemblies for high schools for free. I trained 3,000 college students at the university I was attending how to have a better memory for free. And then when I graduated, I was wondering, you think people would pay for this? So that was that first business, and it worked. I have now trained tens of thousands of college students at over 100 major universities, and then I screwed up. One day, you know, the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, one day this guy walks up to me and says, hey, Bob, I've heard what you've been doing with college students and memory techniques. You need to get this on TV. Now, the year was 1986. That's when the infomercial was just getting started. He said, Bob, it was dirt cheap to advertise on TV back then. He said, you need to get this on TV. You'll be the first one on memory. It will go big. I can help you. And guess what I did? It's not that hard. There's only 2 guesses. I didn't do it. I screwed up. Is there such a thing as a missed opportunity? No. Somebody picks up the ones you leave behind. 2 years later, a guy named Kevin Trudeau in Mega Memory took the nation by storm, became a multimillionaire with memory. Who still remembers Kevin Trudeau in the room? Let me see your hands. You know what? Mine's better. It is. I'm the one who's been in all the schools. It doesn't matter that it's better. He did something I didn't do. What did he do? He took action. Taking action makes all the difference. If you're the student and there's the teacher, you got to act. In fact, let me give you a demonstration of that. I have a $5 bill I'm going to sell for $1. Does that interest anyone? It's good for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. There you go. Let's give them a round of applause. And you just got a demonstration why it's not hard to be successful. We saw 4 people do something that hundreds didn't even try to do. What did they do? They took action. Hey, there's 3 kinds of people. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who are still wondering, what happened? But sometimes the biggest negative person we have to overcome is who? Some of you are sitting there going, oh, he's not serious. Oh, it's probably counterfeit. Oh, he's probably going to embarrass me. Oh, I'll never get up there. I have a $20 bill I'm selling for $10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. There you go. Now, this was not an unlimited offer. I'm sorry. I know what the rest of you are doing. Here's a $100 bill. But I'm not stupid. But isn't that what life's all about, taking action? And by the way, folks, after I screwed up with that infomercial and not being able to put that on TV, I swore that will never happen again. When that teacher appears, I'm going to do something about it. In fact, I will be the student. I will go find the teacher. One day I was having solving problems. Anybody wish they could solve problems better? All right, maybe we'll skip that part. But I wanted to. And I found out about this course, and I went and took this course on problem solving. And one of the things they taught was usually the first solution you come up with isn't normally your best solution. But a lot of us stop thinking, oh, I got a solution, and we stop. He said, press yourself for a second or third solution that challenges the first one. And when you take the time to learn, you never know how quickly it will help you in your life. One day I'm driving down the freeway with my little girl. Now, this was the day she learned how to get out of her car seat all by herself. Isn't that a great day in a parent's life? And her name's Dolly, and to give you an idea of Dolly's personality, when she was just a little baby looking at me through the little rings of that crib, I was looking in her eyes, and it was like she was saying, I'm smarter than you are. So I'm driving down the freeway. She gets out of her car seat. I says, Dolly, get back in your car seat. I look in the rearview mirror. She's looking at me like, yeah, right. And she continues to play. I'm starting to get mad. By the way, you know what I learned? If I'm getting mad, who's got the problem? That's right, I do. I can't blame somebody else for what's going on inside of me, but being the parental pygmy that I was getting mad. I go, Dolly, get back in your car seat or else. I look in the rearview mirror. She's looking at me like, bring it on. So I pull the car over to the side and I get out and I've got a solution in mind, don't I? But I stopped, and I thought, okay, what's a better solution? Now, I don't know where you get your answers, but I looked heavenward. I said, she's your daughter. What do you want me to do with her? And you know what thought popped into my head? Give her a hug. And I looked up and I says, I'm not feeling like a hug. You got any more ideas? And I'm not kidding you, folks. You know the next thing that popped in my head was, if you're not going to listen, quit asking for answers. So I went around to the other side of that car, and I opened up that door, and there's my little girl standing there ready for a fight. And I stood there and I said, come give Daddy a hug. And she melted before my eyes, and she ran across that car seat, and she jumped up into my arms, and she wrapped her arms around my neck, and she started to sob. And I was thinking, what is going on? And when she was done crying, I said, you ready to go home? She said, mm-hmm. And I put her right back in her car seat, and there we went. Now, wasn't that a better solution than the first one I thought of? And you know, I get to use it all the time. One day I'm sitting there, it's time to go to church. There's Dolly again. Dolly, you got to take a bath. We're going to church. What, she watching sumo wrestling? What's this one? Well, my first solution was, I'm bigger than you are. I can carry you to the tub. But I stopped. I thought, okay, what would be better than just making her do it? Thought pops into my head. Give yourself some credit, folks. We have these thoughts come into our heads if we're willing to wait for them to come. I heard, horsey-back ride. So I got on my hands and knees. I go, horsey-back ride? What do you think she did? She got on my back. So we went horsey-back riding right to the tub. Now she's looking at the tub. She's looking at me. There's Indians coming. Hide. She goes right in with all her clothes on. You know what? Be the student, find your teacher. Folks, this reminds me of one day that I was at a conference somewhat like this, and it was getting toward the end of the day, and I was thinking, I need to get out of here. I need to beat traffic. And you know what? Something just kept nagging me. You're here. My gosh, let's take the time to listen to every one of these guys. And the last speaker of the day, one of the last things he talked about was one of the greatest principles I ever learned. He said, if you want to live a happier life, live in a state of gratitude. And then he taught us how to do it. And he says, you know what? Anybody can be grateful when things are going great. But can you be grateful in adversity? Can you be grateful when things aren't going great? And he taught us a little bit about that. And you know what? It worked. And it came just in the nick of time. You see, last April 16th, I got a call from my doctor. The doctor calls. I says, well, this is the doctor calling the patient. This can't be good. He says, Bob, you know that little tumor we took out of your chest? He said, I'm sorry to tell you, it is a metastatic adenocarcinoma. You have less than a year to live. Now, folks, I'm okay. There's a good ending to this story, but I want you to know what happened that day. I got the worst news you could possibly get. I dropped to my knees. I thanked God for my life. I thanked him for the cancer. I thanked him for whatever he had in front of me. And then I got practical. I got practical, folks. I got up off my knees. I called the dentist, and I canceled my appointment. And you know what? You never know how people are going to react when they hear that news. My daughter, now let's give her some leeway. She is a teenager, okay? My daughter hears the news. My little teenage girl comes up, 14 years old. Dad, do you have life insurance? I said, yes, sweetie. Why? Is there any chance I could get some money for some clothes? But I'm going to tell you something. Living in a state of gratitude got me through those 3 weeks when I think I could have never gotten through those 3 weeks. And 3 weeks later, the oncologist calls. He says, Bob, he says, you know, it didn't make sense after all those tests we put you through, so we had the tumor sent to another lab to have it reevaluated, and they confirmed it's cancer. But it didn't make sense, Bob, so I had them do something I normally don't do. I had them evaluate the entire tumor. They saw a little nerve sticking out of it. They go, my gosh, this is a neuroma. Bob, it's benign. You're okay. So I got practical. I called the dentist and got my appointment back. And then I took my daughter shopping so she wouldn't be mad that I was going to live. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what? Have you enjoyed your Get Motivated experience so far today? It is going to get better and better and better. And at the end of the day, you're going to be like John Wooden, the great basketball coach at UCLA, when he said these words, I'm not what I should be. I'm not what I could be. I'm not what I'm going to be. But I thank God I'm not what I used to be. Be the student, find your teacher, make it happen. Jacksonville, Florida, it's been my honor. Thank you. Thank you.